When I think about characters that have constantly been mistreated and humiliated in the TV shows I've watched, the main one that comes to mind is Bay Kennish from Switched at Birth. This is a character that is constantly ignored and pushed aside by her peers and her family. They just run her through the mud and use her like disposable tissue when they feel like it, or in favor for Daphne Vasquez. I mean, the number of times the writers do this to this character is insane. And this all started when, of course, they first find out that she and Daphne were switched at birth, and they immediately changed how they treated Bay when this situation arose. They turned all their attention, her birth mother and her, other parents included, turned all their attention to the Golden Princess, Daphne. No one, and I mean no one, cared how she was dealing with the switch. They just tossed her aside, trying to make Daphne adapt to the new environment, but didn't really make sure that Bay was okay and, make sure that Bay was adapting well to the new circumstances of her life. And she was losing the love and attention from both her families because the Vasquez family didn't even care or take time to know her. Both of the families were putting their energy into Daphne and her needs, and emphasizing how Daphne is a carbon copy of the Kennishes and the perfect daughter because she's athletic and academically gifted, while Bay was more artsy. And they were kind of like framing it in a negative way, like Bay is not good and Daphne is good or more ideal. And really the only people who tried to give Bay some reassurance and tried to act like the same with her was Toby, and let me slide in Catherine a little bit, but the rest belonged to the trash. I mean, there's so many ways where they make sure that they show you how Daphne is on this pedestal and Bay does wrong and Daphne can do no wrong. Like when Daphne got together with Bay's ex-boyfriend, and she didn't see a problem with this. I mean, Daphne had just entered the Kennish's lives and their inner circle and started dating this guy almost immediately. I mean, Bay is made to look bratty and just like causing issues for no reason, but she's not okay with this new girl Daphne, who just coming in, monopolizing her family and now her friends and her school and her ex-boyfriend. And Daphne, of course, makes this all about herself. Daphne then makes it a big deal when Bay gets together with Ty, then breaks up with Bay's ex-boyfriend anyway. So the show frames it like Daphne has this moral high ground because she's from a humble background, so she can't do anything wrong. Then we get to Regina's treatment of Bay. In the show it's revealed that Regina knew about the switch since the girls were 3 years old, and instead of speaking up about the issue, she decides to lie and hire a private investigator to stalk Bay and take pictures of her from afar. I mean, that's already messed up. Understandably, Bay feels unwanted and unloved by her birth mother, which is tough. And I would say I understand Regina's decision, but not really, to keep it a secret, because she didn't want both daughters to be taken from her. But throughout the show, she never really seems to care about Bay. She treats her more like a distant relative than her actual child. Like, it's pretty clear throughout the show that Regina only sees Daphne as her child and not Bay, and she makes effort to distance herself from Bay and her issues. And even when Bay seems to be struggling, she's quick to give Bay a tongue lashing when she does something wrong or something she doesn't approve of, but she continuously cuddles Daphne. We see this when Bay told, about Regina's alcoholism and how she relapsed into it, and she proceeded to scream and yell at Bay and didn't really give Bay grace in that situation. And there are numerous times Regina does this. She's continuously selfish when it comes to Bay and puts her relationship with Daphne over Bay's. She confides in Daphne. She still doesn't trust Bay, doesn't really tell her stuff, but she tells Daphne instead, even when the situation is dire and Bay needs to know this situation. Like this time when she didn't bother to tell Bay that she's moving out of the Kennish's SQ, or when she didn't tell Bay that, the woman who was buying her art is her boyfriend's ex-wife, whose son later got kidnapped by her under Bay's watch. I mean, even though Regina tells Bay that she's used to pulling away from Bay to protect her feelings, that's just a bunch of crap. We see the mistreatment and really kind of disregard for Bay's feelings when they tried to prevent her from knowing her biological father, Angelo. When Bay and Angelo finally connected after Bay tracked down this man, John Kennish tried to put up barriers between the two getting to know each other. I understand that they had concern over Angelo's morality since he abandoned Daphne, which is actually Regina's fault, but them trying to create drama over Bay knowing her father, which is incredibly unfair since Daphne was getting to know hers. They quickly take the moral high ground to place harsh criticisms and judgment and kind of, being really nasty towards Angelo when he was just trying to get to know his daughter. Which leads me into the next issue with this character, Emmett and Bay. This dumpster fire of a relationship is what showed me that the writers truly didn't care about Bay and wanted her to go through as much trauma and humiliation as possible. At first I thought Emmett and Bay were endgame, and at first it made sense. They were both artists and underdogs in their own way. But for some reason, it became the most toxic relationship in the entire show. Emmett's mistreatment and disregard for Bay's feelings really made me want to stop watching. Emmett is the definition of a nice guy. He's caring and kind when he doesn't have you or loses you. But once he gets you, his mission is to make your life hell. In season 1, Emmett cheats on Bay with her ex-friend Simone because they got into an argument about his parents. He proceeds to hide the truth from her until he finally comes clean due to guilt. Also, while they were dating, with no regard of their relationship, Daphne kisses Emmett and professes her love for him, just because he's with Bay. After Bay dumps him like a sack of rotten potatoes, he obsesses over her until he finally gets her back. Their relationship seemed to be going smoothly, but unfortunately Bay is essayed by a frat boy ex-boyfriend Hank during a college party while Emmett was in LA for school. Their relationship had already become distant at this point because Daphne was not in LA, so their relationship was kind of on the rocks. But Emmett started becoming distant and cold towards Bay, and he was insecure and broke up with Bay mainly because he wanted to be some LA big shot, and he basically didn't think Bay was good enough for him anymore. Now, we all know that Emmett thought that he would be with Sky and all that, and he discarded Bay like used toilet paper. The show doesn't do a really good job with discussing matters essay, racism, and discrimination. With Bay's SA story, they opened the discussion of incidents that happen in college campuses. They made Bay a mouthpiece for SA victims in a way that wasn't very effective or meaningful. The storyline didn't make sense, and the conclusion wasn't dealt with in a very unambiguous way by making Tank seem like the victim or like he was wrongly accused, and that storyline was kind of like swept under the rug. I don't know why they try to make commentary like this when they don't know how to execute it. At this point in the show, they made Bay a confused character just floating around where the wind took her. She had become the show's punching bag. She was receiving blows left, right, and center. They made her character, a character that bad stuff happens to. And this all started with her taking the blame for Daphne. Whoever thought of this storyline should have been escorted out by the writers and asked to never return again. But Bay taking the fall for Daphne's crimes and erratic behavior never made sense to me. It never made sense to me how Daphne was always painted as the good child and Bay the irresponsible one, or not as good. It never made sense to me how Angelo's death became about her. It never made sense to me why they thought it was a good idea to throw away Bay's entire future, all for Daphne's sake. This all happened because after Angelo's death, Daphne went on a rebellion tour and decided to destroy everything on her way without caring who it would hurt. She ended up vandalizing Regina's real estate project with a known criminal and gang member. And since she already had a record for blackmailing a politician, she wouldn't get into medical school and have to do time. That makes Bay decide to take the blame for her since she didn't have a criminal record, so they'd be more lenient. And the fact that everyone was okay with Bay, even excited to have a permanent record and have her under house arrest for a crime she didn't commit, was crazy. The writers made her destroy her character, and they finally did it. John Kennish was a terrible father to Bay, and he never cared about her well-being. That's why he was okay with this fiasco. And it's just a pattern of Daphne getting away with her erratic behavior, Daphne getting away with all the things she does, which are so stupid, and other people having to take the fall or the consequences of her action. And when we get back to Bay's relationships, she should have never ended up with Trent. The writers were scared to have either girl single, so they made them hop from one man to the other, even when it was totally inappropriate or unnecessary. Trent and Bay got together, and while they were better than Emmett and Bay, they weren't good either. Bay and Trent were their own kind of toxic and shouldn't have been endgame. The way they had more chemistry as friends than a couple is so funny. It seemed like they ended up because there was no one else that they could pair her up with, and they didn't want her single, which after all the trauma that she has gone through would have been the best. And her breaking up with Ty and Bay got together after he got back from Afghanistan. Ty and Bay got back together after he got back from Afghanistan. It made sense for them to end up together, in my opinion. Ty was good for Bay, and I think their relationship was more fun and had more chemistry than all the other guys she dated. The writers made a mistake by making them break up early because they wanted to make way for Emmett, I guess, but we never got to see their relationship grow and mature, which I think would have been better than her ending up with Tank, so out of all the guys, I think Ty was the best one, and I think he is the one who genuinely cared about Bay. All in all, Bay was a tortured character who deserved way more than what she was given from everyone around her. She was constantly being ignored, and no one really cared about her mental or emotional well-being. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe.